Hey, brothers and sisters. My name is John Crabtree. I'm the pastor of First United Methodist Church here in Mountain City, Tennessee, and Trade United Methodist Church in Trade, Tennessee. I want to welcome you to our Wednesday Bible study for Wednesday, the 14th of October. We're going through the book of Exodus now. I'm going to spend some time with Moses. Talk about the call. Talk about his response to the call and the things that God did in Egypt. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. It was kind of rainy and cloudy to start off, but it has cleared up. And here in Mountain City, the weather is absolutely beautiful. A lot of the trees are really at their peak color. Some are still green, so we've got a little bit of time left to enjoy the fall colors. So I hope you guys are making time to go out and enjoy the beauty of God's creation. I think we're going to be talking about that a little bit Sunday too. I think that's a very necessary antidote to the anxiety and the stress that we're all feeling about the coronavirus, the pressure and stress of the political season, all these yucky things. All those things can be helped at least a little bit by reconnecting with God and taking a little bit of time to go enjoy God's creation, go stand in the sunshine and look at the trees. It's always a good thing. Well, my mug this morning is empty. This is I don't know if you can see it or not. Yes, got this on a family vacation to Las Vegas. And I wanted a tacky, colorful mug, just kind of like Las Vegas. But you know, it's kind of symbolic that the decal that's on the mug, it was wrinkling and kind of coming loose even before I got it home. So I've never put anything in this. I've never washed this, because when I do, I think it will all come off. But that was an amazing trip. The girls and I had a good time on that trip. It was a neat place to see. They had a lot of cool things to look at. But yeah, we've done that. I'm not sure I want to go back. Maybe. I don't know. I would like to go back to Boulder Dam though, Hoover Dam though. That was really cool. So good memory of a really good trip with a really good family vacation. All right. Well, last week we were beginning to explore the call story of Moses. Moses saw the burning bush, and he started talking to God or God started talking to him more accurately about Moses going back to bring God's people and Moses' people out of bondage, out of slavery in Egypt. And Moses has already kind of started, I don't want to say whining, but Moses is already kind of throwing up some roadblocks saying, I don't think I can do this. And that's really common. That's really common, especially in the Old Testament. Some of the one of the ways that a call story, especially in the Old Testament, was verified. I mean, I learned this in seminary. Was that the prophet was initially kind of hesitant about going and doing God's work, about going and carrying the message of God to the powers that be. And God had to either convince them or God had to convince them to actually go and do. There are a few brilliant exceptions to that. In the New Testament, the response of Mary, the mother of Jesus, to the call of God was just the perfect response for all of us. She hears God speak and she says, "Okay, I'll do it." She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't waver. She just says, "Let it be done according to your will." And so that's the best example. The more common example is one I think that you and I could identify with. And God says, "Hey, I want you to go tell these powerful people that what they're doing is wrong." And we'd be like, "I don't know about that. That's not going to end well for me. I'm not sure that I'm the right person for this job." So having a little hesitance in the face of God's call is pretty typical for a prophet. And remember, a prophet is not a future teller or a fortune teller. A prophet is a truth teller. The prophet is the one bearing the word of God, especially to the power, speaking truth to power. generally makes those in power very angry. And the prophets generally had some bad consequences, but God always looked after them. So Moses is saying, I'm not so sure I can do this. And so he's asked God, okay, who do I tell these people? Who shall I say sent me? And God says, I am that I am. Actually, here in the Old Testament, God uses his own divine name, Yahweh. The Jewish folks feel the divine name is too holy to use just in conversation. We Protestants, or we Christians, differ a little bit on that. You may be more familiar with the translation Jehovah as a divine name, and that is really not a good translation from the Hebrew. Yahweh is a much better translation, and it's very, very seldom written out. When you see in your Bibles, when you see Lord written out in all caps, especially the little bitty caps, that's when God uses his own name, Yahweh, the divine name, and it really means I am that I am, or I will be that I will be. Kind of encompasses all those ideas of God is who he is. His name and his identity are the same. So God has told Moses that you tell them that Yahweh has sent you. And so we are going to begin in chapter 4, and Moses is continuing his argument. Then Moses answered, but suppose they do not believe me or listen to me, but say, the Lord did not appear to you. Yahweh did not appear to you. The Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? And Moses said, a staff. Then he said, throw it on the ground. So Moses, threw the staff on the ground, and it became a snake. And Moses drew back from it. Then the Lord said to Moses, reach out your hand and seize it by the tail. Well, that would be a test of faith now, wouldn't it, brothers and sisters? So he reached out his hand and grasped it, and it became a staff in his hand. So that they may believe the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, appeared to you. Again, the Lord, Yahweh, said to him, put your hand inside your cloak. Moses put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, his hand was leprous, white as snow. Then God said, put your hand back into your cloak. So he put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his body. If they will not believe you or heed the first sign, they may believe the second sign. If they will not believe even these two signs or heed you, you shall take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water that you shall take from the Nile will become like blood on the ground. Excuse me. So God is making all these signs that the people will see and believe. Now, signs and wonders, a staff turning into a snake and back, and Moses is having leprosy and being healed from it, will be considered signs and wonders. And Jesus in the New Testament talks really strongly about people who are looking for signs and wonders. And I don't think that God's attitude towards signs and wonders has really changed at all. That we are not a people who should depend on signs and wonders to base our faith on. We base our faith on trusting in what God has said and the evidence of his faithfulness. But sometimes signs and wonders are a good addition to faith, or a confirmation to faith. And here in the beginning, back in the beginnings of things, when the Hebrew or the Israelites hadn't really had organized worship up to this point, that might have been a more reasonable thing to say, okay, this is some of the proofs that I am who I say I am. And that Moses could say, this is proof that God has indeed sent me. So I wouldn't say that this is a change of God's overall dislike of us asking for signs and wonders. I think in this situation, it was a way to get people's attention and a way to prove what Moses was saying that God said. So signs and wonders. And this really is a very different feeling kind of event from the New Testament. In the New Testament, Jesus is walking around and teaching and talking to people. And yeah, he's healing and casting out demons and multiplying loaves and fishes. But a lot of those things, well, the loaves and fishes thing, we've talked about that. How it was a kind of a behind the scenes, and changing the water into the wine, that was kind of behind the scenes. And the healings, they really, well, the word got out. That's why so many of the crowds followed Jesus around. But again, they weren't done as a way of saying, look at me. They were done as a way of one-on-one teaching and one-on-one reaching people. So God, I don't believe God has changed his desire that we live by faith and not by sight, or sign and wonder. But in this case, Moses did have those signs and wonders on tap to help convince the folks. But that wasn't enough. Moses, in verse 10, Moses goes on. But Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now, that you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." I hadn't noticed that before, but the thoughts of going before the people and going before the rulers of Egypt, the powerful and mighty people, he might have been having a bit of stage fright and not being afraid he couldn't come up with the right words. Then the Lord said to him, "Who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you are to speak." But Moses said, "Oh my Lord, please send someone else." So Moses says, "Look, I'm not a good public speaker." God says, "Go. I'll give you the words to say. Don't worry about it." And Moses keeps on arguing. But he said, "Oh my Lord, please send someone else." Then the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, and finally, God gets a little ticked off at Moses. And it's probably a bad analogy, but I cannot help but think of, as a parent, of needing my kids to do something or asking kids to do something. And kids, if you see this, forgive me for bringing this up. But they just keep arguing and arguing, like you would be done by now if you quit arguing with me. Until finally me or the parent, whoever, gets a little ticked off. And that's in a human sense, that's not a good thing. But here Moses has been arguing with God for quite a while now. Like really, I'm really not. Well, I'm not sure I want to do this. And God's saying, "Go do it anyway." Okay. The anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, "What about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know that he can speak fluently. Even now he is coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, his heart will be glad. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and teach you what you shall do. He indeed shall speak for you to the people. He shall serve as a mouth for you, and you shall serve as God for him." Not literally. Probably God means as the conduit for God. "Take in your hand this staff with which you shall perform the signs." Moses went back to his father-in-law Jethro and said to him, "Please let me go back to my kindred in Egypt and see whether they are still living." And Jethro said to Moses, "Go in peace." The Lord said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt, for all those who were seeking your life are dead." So Moses took his wife and his sons, put them on a donkey, and went back to the land of Egypt. And Moses carried the staff of God in his hand. So Moses finally quits arguing and sets out to do what God asked him to do the first time. How much stress and arguing could be saved if we just said yes to God to start with? Sometimes it's hard to imagine. I can resonate with the call stories where the people are like, "Are you sure, God, that you're calling the right person?" I'm not really all that. But God has a way of choosing the least likely people to be his workers. And that is certainly true today as it was back in Moses' time. And we tend to think of our Old Testament heroes as these giants of the faith. And I want to bring to light these times where they weren't so heroic. Not to diminish them or to knock them down, but to point out that they're at the core humans, just like me and you. And sometimes when God needs us to be heroic, we might need to step up to the plate. God will equip us. God will give us what we need. But we have to be willing to say yes to God to start with. And yeah, that's hard sometimes, but I'm glad God is faithful. Okay, so Moses and the family head back to Egypt. And I think we're going to stop here. We've been talking about the call of Moses and his resistance to it. But when Moses gets to Egypt, different things start to happen. We have the plagues and all these other things going on. So I think we'll spend some time next week looking at that. And that takes several chapters. We may condense that a little bit. I'm not one who thinks that there are deep significances in historical and future telling significances to the different plagues and things like that. I think God did what God did to get their attention. But anyway, I think we'll start next week and look at that and see where we go from there. Talking about the call, I think, is enough for today. So I hope you guys continue to have a blessed week. Hopefully see you in church on Sunday. We'll be worshiping at Trade at 9:30 up on the mountain. And here at First, we'll be worshiping at 11 o'clock. Do wear your mask, and we're going to keep our social distancing. And we'll be talking this Sunday, talking about Moses on Sunday morning, about how after this, how he sees God from the cleft of the rock. We're going to be talking about ways that we see and the ways that we encounter God. So I hope that you guys encounter God in a blessed way this week, and we'll see you on Sunday. Have a blessed week, and we will see you later. God bless.